I've been waiting for a movie like this for a long time. Because, to be honest, the first two Romeo and Juliet movies that I saw in high school were not very good. The first one was nice, but the acting has not aged well at all, neither have the effects. And the Baz Luhrmann one was just far too silly and ridiculous for me to take seriously. Not even DiCaprio's acting could have saved that movie. So ever since I saw those two films in grade 9, I've been wishing that there was another version of Romeo and Juliet that could take the good parts of each film and combine them. Did this one succeed? Yes and no. This movie has its own flaws. There's a prologue that screenwriter Julian Fellowes and director Carlo Curri added into this film, and the prologue just sucks. I don't know what they were doing with that prologue. I think the prologue's worst offense is that it makes Mercutio into a Montague as opposed to a cousin of the prince. But I'm not going to get too deeply into that because people who know the play and the story will see the flaws and plot holes that this creates. But anyway, on to the main story. As most people know, Romeo and Juliet takes place in Verona, where two rich families are in the middle of such a feud that the youngsters can't even cross the street without starting a fight. Meanwhile, we're introduced to the hopelessly romantic Romeo Montague and the beautiful and young Juliet Capulet. These two meet, fall in love, and get married all within the course of 24 hours, thanks in part to the idealistic Friar Lawrence, who sees their union as an end to the long-standing family feud. This daring plan naturally has grave consequences, and spoilers are pretty useless for a collective society that has completely absorbed the full story of Romeo and Juliet. The good sides to this film version rest mostly in the performances. While the first version is notorious for its overacting, and the second version features both underacting and overacting, most of the performances in this version find a strange sort of medium, though we still get Damian Lewis as Lord Capulet to ham it up to the 10th degree in his scenes. What works well is how close to the right ages the characters have been cast. The youthfulness of the younger actors is helpful in carrying across their young characters. The two leads in particular are well acted. I don't know Douglas Booth from anything, but I do remember Haley Steinfeld from her performance in True Grit. Between her takes on Maddie and Juliet, I would say that she's a very promising young actress with a long career ahead of her. Meanwhile, we get former child actor Cody Smit-McPhee as Benvolio, and he does a good job with one of the more sympathetic characters in the play. Ed Westwick and Christian Cook, meanwhile, play the hot-headed Tybalt and the reckless Mercutio. Paul Giamatti gives one of the movie's best performances as Friar Lawrence, and the rest of the roles are reasonably acted despite the insignificant roles they have in the story. I would have to say that the movie's flaws will most likely be noticed by the purists. People like me, who have read the play, will probably have gripes about what they chose to leave in and what they chose to take out. As I said before, the prologue will be really annoying because of how obviously tacked on it is, but that's a fan of Shakespeare talking as opposed to the average moviegoer. If I had anything else to grumble about, I would say that the movie puts all the emphasis on the tragedy of Romeo and Juliet's failed love, and rarely gives time for the questions into how such a rushed romance could realistically work. Now, I'm aware that this is all up to interpretation, but personally, I would have liked a stronger focus on how the family's feud led two teenagers to make a mountainous romance out of a molehill meet-cute, and as a result blight several lives in the process. But overall, I would say that despite its flaws, this is the best version of Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet that has yet been made, in the world of film at least. But thanks to how different the adaptations are from each other, you'll be sure to find fans of each one fighting amongst themselves in an endless quarrel over which version is better. An ironic image, if ever there was one.